Hey everybody, HomeSliceHenry here, and in today's video, we're going to be checking out an incredibly powerful pick for the Ultra League Premier Cup, and that is Chestnut. Chestnut, of course, did recently get a calm day, giving it access to Frenzy Plant, and with Chestnut having Frenzy Plant and Superpower, it now has incredibly good coverage versus the meta. I ran Aurorus on the lead and Trevenant as the save switch to hopefully bait out any flying types, and then Chestnut might just be the best Pokemon at sweeping endgames once the flyer is gone. So without further ado, let's hop into the matches and check out Chestnut in action in the Ultra Premier Cup. Hopping to the first match, picking up a tough lead, Aurorus into Swampert. I do have two better responses in the back, so I will immediately save switch into Trevenant, and I'm able to bait out Charizard. I lost lead and lost swap, but so far the team is working exactly as intended, able to bait out the flying type, and Trevenant is actually able to grab a shield from the Charizard as well. At this point, I'm just going to let this go. Trevenant did its job. It baited out the flyer, and now I can send back in Aurorus to get rid of the Charizard, and hopefully I should be able to set up Chestnut with a shield advantage to sweep in the endgame. Charizard goes for the Blast Burn. That hits for some heavy neutral damage onto Aurorus. Aurorus returning fire with the Weather Ball. Weather Ball gets the Charizard low. Aurorus able to get the farm down, and I'm looking to bring in Chestnut in the back. They have Wall Rain, and with a shield advantage, Chestnut is about to absolutely shred the remainder of this team. Frenzy Plant gets a shield. Chestnut continuing to farm. Wall Rain has a lot of energy, but remember, I have a shield advantage here, so I can use both shields on the Icicle Spears, look to overfarm with Chestnut, and I'll be able to Frenzy Plant this Wall Rain for the KO and leave with enough energy to outpace the Swampert. Chestnut has so much energy here. Frenzy Plant crushes the Wall Rain. In comes the Swampert. Opponent sees the writing on the wall and concedes the match. Picking up a great lead in the next match, Aurorus into Como-O. Opponent save switches into Lapras, and honestly, I am perfectly fine to stay in here with Aurorus. Aurorus still has a positive matchup, and honestly, I can do pretty decently against Como-O with any of my Pokemon. I'm going for the Meteor Beam right off the bat. Lapras commits the shield, but now that just means the future Meteor Beams are going to do more. I'm going to commit the shield here with Aurorus, and I'm going for Meteor Beam number 2. Let's see, are they willing to invest both shields into this Lapras? Firing off the Meteor Beam into the Lapras. It KOs after one more Powder Snow. So now I have switch advantage, I'm double boosted, and I have a little bit of energy on Aurorus as well. In the back, the opponent has their own Aurorus, and I am not baiting. I'm going straight for the Meteor Beam. I want to guarantee this final shield. Meteor Beam gets the shield. My opponent is overfarming quite a bit, and at this point, I don't really need my Aurorus anymore. I can just let this go. I have Chestnut to absolutely crush the Aurorus, and I can build up to the superpower and send in Trevenant to deal with the Como-O. Como-O is going to fire off the Dragon Claw here. Trevenant able to absorb the damage and make it to the Shadow Ball. This will not quite KO, but this will put it into a range where, if need be, I can just Vine Whip down with Chestnut. They're going for the Dragon Claw. I have a shield, but I'm just not going to need to use it. I can let this through, Vine Whip down with Chestnut, and the opponent concedes the match. We've got a tough lead in the next match, Aurorus into Jellicent. I'm going to immediately save switch into Trevenant. It is a bubble Jellicent, and the opponent is going to respond with Scrafty. Now, my team does get core broken by Scrafty, so not a Pokemon I'm particularly happy to see. Trevenant going for the Seed Bomb here, and this is a matchup that, if you're the Trevenant, is actually made substantially better by the fact that this is in the Ultra League. The reason being is that Trevenant can survive a foul play, and they can't really farm down without giving up a shield. Seed Bomb is going to land. They lose CMP, but this is only a power-up punch, so I can let this through. I should be able to fire off a last-second charge move, and the Seed Bomb is going to either get me switch advantage or shield advantage. Now, this is a bit awkward because, unfortunately, they have two strong counters to Aurorus, so I'm just going to send in my Aurorus. I'm taking massive damage, but I'm basically just using it as a damage sponge to set up the Chestnut. In comes Chestnut. Opponent going for another power-up punch, but Chestnut is not too worried about that. Power-up punch, not going to do a lot. Chestnut is very bulky in the Ultra League, and I'm able to farm down. We'll have to see, do they bring in their final Pokemon? They do not. They send in the Jellicent, and it looks like the opponent is core broken by Chestnut in the back. Frenzy Plant, big damage onto the Jellicent, and I will respect the potential Ice Beam. Opponent does have the Ice Beam in the back. They have Galarian Stunfisk. Stunfisk, one of the best XL Pokemon that you can use in the Ultra Premier Cup, gets absolutely destroyed by Chestnut, as Chestnut is able to wall its standard moveset. Opponent fires off the Rock Slide. Chestnut absolutely laughs off that damage, and I'm at the back-to-back superpowers here, going for superpower number 1. This did end up being a CMP tie, so I will commit the shield just because I did lower my defense, and then I can go for superpower number 2 onto the Stunfisk. And Stunfisk has no shields remaining. They just have to take the damage. They send in Jellicent. I continue to farm with Chestnut. Send in Aurorus. Aurorus gets the farm down, and the opponent concedes the match. Moving into the next match, picking up a pretty nice lead, Aurorus into Nidoqueen. Opponent is going to save switch into Trevenant, and since switching takes a turn, I will be able to outpace and fire off a Weather Ball before they make it to a Seed Bomb. Weather Ball gets a shield, and now that I have shield advantage, I'm going to send in my own Trevenant and respect their potential Shadow Ball with a shield. They unfortunately do bait me, however, I run a very attack-weighted Trevenant, so I'm going to overfarm by 1 and force CMP with a Shadow Ball. Shadow Ball gets no shielded, and I'm comfortably able to keep switch. Back in comes Nidoqueen. Nidoqueen goes for the Poison Fang, but again, losing CMP to Trevenant. Trevenant lands the Shadow Ball and gets the Nidoqueen very low. Nidoqueen is going to be firing off the Poison Fang here. Poison Fang not quite able to KO, and they get the farm down. I send in Aurorus in the back. They have Surfetched, and this is a bit uncomfortable, as Surfetched, of course, can learn Brave Bird. I will respect the potential Brave Bird with a shield here. Opponent baits with a Leaf Blade, but I should be able to farm up to the back-to-back superpowers here with Chestnut. They, of course, will shield the first, but even debuffed, this superpower is going to do a lot of damage to the Surfetched. Superpower gets the Surfetch low. Surfetch continues to farm. They're at the back-to-back moves here. They have 2 Leaf Blades stored. First one is going to KO the Chestnut. Second one is going to land onto Aurorus. This is super effective damage, but Aurorus is very tanky, absorbs the hit, gets to the Weather Ball. Weather Ball will be taking care of the Nidoqueen, and the win streak continues on. Hopping into the next match, going up against fellow content creator Dan Ottawa, and we see one of the best possible leads we can see with this team, Aurorus into Pidgeot. Opponent save switches into a Bubble Jellicent, and I'm going to respond with my Trevenant. Trevenant will have to commit a shield to keep switch here, but honestly, I don't mind doing that, as long as I can keep switch, I have full faith that Chestnut, even down a shield, will be able to clean up whatever's in the back. I overfarm as much as possible, going for the Shadow Ball, and down goes Jellicent. Opponent sends back in Pidgeot. Pidgeot honestly has a pretty aggressive farm ahead of them if they're going to wing attack all the way down, and I intend to take full advantage, just firing off Seed Bomb after Seed Bomb, and I actually end up winning CMP as my opponent decides, hey, I probably need to throw some energy. I'm going to let this go. I need to save my final shield for Chestnut. This is going to KO the Trevenant. I send in Aurorus. In the back is Shadow Swampert, and Chestnut is absolutely shredding the Swampert with Vine Whips. I will respect a potential Sludge Wave here. It's just a Hydro Cannon. Chestnut going for the farm down. Swampert fires a move. This is going to be close. I don't think they made it, and they did not. It's only a Hydro Cannon. Chestnut farms down, and at this point, unfortunately, there's just nothing the Pidgeot can do. I fire off the superpower. It connects. Chestnut gets the farm down and secures the win. Picking up a pretty decent lead in the next match, Aurorus into Alolan Ninetales. We'll have to check the fast move, and they're running Powder Snow. So I'm very happy to catch this on the lead, and I definitely intend to stay in here because I don't really want my grass types going up against the Powder Snow user. Meteor Beam is going to get shielded by my opponent, but that just means the next one is doing more. I'm going to let this move through. Opponent does full send the Dazzling Gleam, and that will do quite a bit of damage. At this point, they're just going for a Weather Ball. That's going to be resisted, so I don't have to shield this. I can let that through. My opponent tries to catch onto a Miltank, but I'm able to hold on to my energy, and now I can send in Chestnut. Chestnut will need 2 moves to KO here, but the good news is I can pretty comfortably tank an Ice Beam. Again, the bulk of Chestnut in the Ultra League is quite nice. They go for the body slam there. I'm now going for the Frenzy Plant. I need 2 moves to KO, so I only want to throw 1 debuffing move if at all possible. So I'm going to overfarm here and fire off the superpower on the CMP tied to the next body slam. I'm overfarming as much as possible because I hope to reach a superpower versus the Ninetales. Ninetales goes for the farm down, but Chestnut able to hang on, make it to the superpower, and get some chip damage. I do have the Meteor Beam loaded. I'm going to send in Aurorus, and Aurorus is going to fire off the Meteor Beam onto the Ninetales. Ninetales commits the shield, and it was a CMP tie. At this point, I'm just going to trust in Trevenant here. I'm going to send in Trevenant with a 2 shield advantage, and the opponent concedes the match. Picking up a tricky lead in the next match, Aurorus into Shadow Snorlax. Snorlax, of course, is typically running superpower, so it has a ton of play against both my Aurorus as well as my Trevenant. So I'm going to stay in this matchup to start, but I will probably need to go down shields to get rid of the Lax. I fire off the Meteor Beam, my opponent is going to shield the first move, and I'm going to match shields here. I can't afford to no shield the superpower, and I'm very happy I did as they full send the superpower, and odds are this is superpower number 2. So I am actually going to double shield in this matchup and just continue to farm. Opponent is going to send in Sylveon, and Sylveon is not going to appreciate the boosted Meteor Beam. Gets the Sylveon almost to the red, and I'm going to fire off a Weather Ball here. This is +2. This will easily KO the Sylveon here, and my opponent is just going to let that go. I am boosted. I don't have any shields remaining, but I have a bit of energy, and my attack is quite boosted. Opponent sends in the Shadow Snorlax. I'm farming up, and I'm going to fire off a Weather Ball here. Weather Ball grabs a shield, and I'm going to send in Trevenant. Might seem like a bit of a strange switch, but their charge moves aren't very useful here. They fire off the body slam, that's going to be double resisted. I continue to farm, and in the back, they have Obstagoon. So their remaining Pokemon are going to get absolutely shredded by Chestnut. Here, my opponent farms up so much energy with their Obstagoon. They're hoping if they can absolutely max out on energy, that Obstagoon will be able to win them this game. But bad news for the Obstagoon. Chestnut is going to absolutely crush it in the end game. They finally fire off some energy here. They go for the Night Slash. They have a ton of energy. I'm hoping they just blind throw, so I send in the Aurorus. Unfortunately, miscalculation by me. They didn't end up blind throwing the energy, but they are going to fire off their charge moves here. They're running Cross Chop. Cross Chop just not going to do enough damage to Chestnut. Chestnut tanks Cross Chops for days. Opponent sends in the Shadow Snorlax. Chestnut makes it to the Superpower. Superpower easily KOs the Snorlax. We get the farm down of the Obstagoon, and that is a good game. We've got a battle of spice in the final match, leading Aurorus into Beware. Beware, honestly, a core breaker for this team, as it does very well against Aurorus and against Trevenant. I'm going to fire off the Weather Ball, and I'm going to try and catch a superpower as they reach the back-to-back. I farm up, switch, and make the catch onto Trevenant. Let's go. But disaster strikes. They baited with a payback, and I almost get one shot, and I lose my entire Trevenant. This is incredibly bad. I'm going to send back in Aurorus, go for the Weather Ball, but unfortunately I do lose CMP to Beware. They fire off the superpower, I will commit the shield, and I'm going for this Weather Ball. Weather Ball should just about KO here. Beware living with a sliver of health, and my opponent is going to send in an XL Galarian Weezing. I build up to the Meteor Beam, but I decide to bait. I'm hoping my opponent is going to shield the first one. Weezing fires off the Play Rough. That does quite a bit of damage. I'm going to be firing off the Weather Ball bait here, and my opponent no shields. Everything going wrong in this matchup. I'm gonna need Chestnut to pull off some miracles here. Weather Ball gets the shield. My opponent tries to go for CMP, but I end up going for the extra here. I will shield up. Opponent, of course, can just go for Brutal Swing, and I'm going to fire off this Weather Ball. Weather Ball will be getting them quite low. Opponent lets it through, and suddenly I have a chance. I'm hopefully going to be able to Vine Whip down the Weezing, and then take on whatever's in the back. In the back, my opponent has a Galarian Rapidash. This is not what I was hoping to see. I just have to hope that they're running high horsepower, and they're not running Play Rough. I continue to farm. I'm very close to the Frenzy Plant here. Let's see. Do they have it? They have Mega Horn. That hits for massive neutral damage, but I'm able to make it to the Frenzy Plant there. Frenzy Plant KOs the Rapidash, and now, can I farm down the Weezing? Yes, I can. And I farm down the Beware, and somehow we survive the game. All in all, I feel like Chestnut and this team are incredibly effective in the current Ultra Premier Cup meta. I tested it out towards the end of my stream and honestly did not lose a battle for the rest of stream. Saw some good leads, saw some bad leads, and the team felt like it was able to handle it really nicely. And Chestnut is just such a good core breaker in the end game, as a lot of people aren't really prepping for the combination of grass plus fighting coverage, since the main grass fighter Virizion is banned due to being a legendary. Anyways, thank you guys so much for watching. If you're enjoying the content, make sure to leave a like and subscribe to the channel if you haven't. And a special thank you as always to our members here on YouTube. The support you guys provide is absolutely incredible. So thank you guys oh so very much. And until next time, I've been HomeSliceHenry.